Welcome to part 8 of the Fantasy version walkthrough. And in this version we go ahead and get the advisor key. But first we seem to be searching for our bag, and that's to use the escape rope to get out of City Dungeons, the one we found just at the end of the last video before the fight with the Vampire King. So we go back to Oregano City, and the way to progress to the next area is you just take a broomstick to another sailor, and you go to West Shore. Which we touched upon in an earlier video. But this time you go directly left to this gate here, which requires both the elf and the vampire keys. There's a U-turn book there if you want that. And the gate disappears now that you've got both the keys. So you go west onto Queen's Road. But before you can go anywhere, your rival will stop you and have a battle with you. Is the last rival battle of the storyline. And in my case, I was struggling with this Samurott. And also Clefable there was being annoying, and we fainted again. And also we couldn't get the strategy right on that part either. But here is the correct strategy. Sends out Flygon first. I do Dragon Dance for reasons that you'll see later. And then goes Outrage to Oko. He will then send out... So it does that quite easily. Dragon's quite fast, even at the lower level, and has quite a high amount of attack. Sends out Drapion. But then Dragon gets knocked out, so we sack Dragon for this fight. We then send out Bird because it resists all of Drapion's attacks quite well. And we go for the Hone Claws. Now this is a strategy that I had to adopt. What I'm doing is I'm using Hone Claws 4 times, and you'll see why in a minute. Because it's not for Drapion itself, it's because the next one he sends out is so annoying and is so fast that the only way that I thought to deal with it is just to Oko it. So that's what I did. I sort of went through all the hits and made sure to count to 4 Hone Claws. So its attack is up by quite a considerable amount. Drapion hits Night Slash, and that's a Bird's not resistant to Night Slash. So you've got to look out for that. And also it's got a very high crit rate. But we got the 4, and now we've knocked out Drapion. So this is the one, Samurott. Obviously, if you choose a different starter, this would be Delphox or Decidueye. But we had Samurott, and we Oko'd it with Brave Bird thanks to the 4 times Hone Claws. So that was the strategy there. Then since that's Surfetched, I figure why not, I'll just Brave Bird in Oko. But he outspeeds and close combats me and knocks out Bird, which obviously was not great. We thought, let's send out Hattie. It's not got first impression, so it can't super effective bug me. And it doesn't even get to half, and we Psychic it and knock it out that way. So that was pretty decent. Clefable next. We're thinking, oh, Bird's been knocked out, what can we do? We can use the Poison type, Bat, with Cross Poison. So that's who he sends out. He has Clefable. We go for the Cross Poison, which we managed to sort of get to about half HP, and also poison it as well. Goes for a not very effective Moonblast, and at that point it uses the full Restore and undoes the poison that we inflicted. The second hit doesn't get it to half HP and also doesn't poison it. We hit it again and use Moonblast again. It's almost knocked out. We're not really worried about it offensively. It once again heals Clefable. Another cross poison. We just keep basically cross poisoning it until it gets knocked out, which it managed to do just now. So Lilypad leveled up as well, and that is the rival done. That's the last one of before the post game. So that's pretty cool. Gives us the Electro Red book and runs off. Grand Wizard then comes to greet you and sort of speaks to you and basically is like, "Go on, you can do this," sort of thing. And our next destination is a place called Umber Castle. This one is quite... The road to Umber Castle's... I think you can avoid every single trainer on the way to the castle. The gate there, you need the key we're going to get in this video, so we'll ignore that for now. So this is sort of the way there. It's just straightforward west. There's nothing special here. Obviously, you can avoid all the trainers just by going around them, basically. It's nothing too special. You've got Berry Patch there, which is quite cool. I didn't show the footage there because no one wants to see me pick berries. Yeah, you just sort of go west. That guy we fought anyway, just to sort of get the XP, because we're quite a few levels underneath. And the next one we will face is the Dark Corvenite at the entrance there. It's on that plain bit of grass. We decided to do what I always tell you to do with the Dark Pokemon strategy, which is to have your Haze user up first. Also helps if it's quite fast, which is why Crobat's quite an ideal one. And we also had Dog up front as well, so we could go with the super effective fire-type moves. So that's what we do. We went for the Flamethrower and the Haze just to clear all those stats that it buffed at the start of the match. So now it's just a straight old Corvenite. Still fairly strong, but nowhere near the beast that it would have been. We taught Dragon Rock Slide, so we sent that out to deal with Talonflame to try and OHKO it. And then also tried to confuse the Corviknight as well. Hits us with a not very potent Brave Bird, and that knocks out his Gale Wings, so it can't have priority anymore. Unfortunately, Corviknight knocks out the Dragon, which means that we can't just go for a super effective Rock Slide. However, we've got Lilypad, which is neutral to fire, and tries to go for the Bubble Beam, and we also go for Air Cutter as well. Fortunately, knocks us near knockout with Brave Bird, but we managed to get Talonflame just before, I believe, Corviknight goes and knocks out Lilypad with Body Press. Now, when the stats are enhanced, Body Press does an absolute ton. Even without, Corviknight's quite high defense, so look out for that as well. But most of my team are fairly resistant to fighting anyway. We went with the Play Nice from Hattie and went with Air Cutter just because it was a relatively decent hitting move. Iron Head, but unfortunately, oh yes, that is something to remember. Mirror Armor, I forgot about it. Don't you? So don't try and lower Corviknight stats because it'll just lower them back instead. Brave Bird knocks out Dog, but it also hits itself and gets itself to the half HP mark to send out its next ally. We send out our own Corviknight at that point, and it has a Braviary. So I think our strategy is just to basically Hone Claws, the usual sort of strategy. We're just getting a few cheeky HP in. We're not doing that, we're trying to Supersonic and missed, unfortunately. Goes for the Fly, which means we can't do anything on this next turn, so we just go for another Hone Claws. And I think we try and confuse the Corviknight, which we managed to do this time. Fly hits hardly anything. But Corviknight manages a Power Trip, but it's weak because all of its stats are back to 0 again. So we then go for our own Power Trip on Braviary, but unfortunately it protects, so we also can't get the Cross Poison on that either, which is it's annoying, but you know they're hardly hitting anything at that point. We're pretty safe. We're in pretty safe region at the minute. Leah's not helpful, but even with our defense knocked down, we're still not that much in trouble. As you can see, Ironhead did barely anything. It wouldn't have done much more to bat either. Goes for the Protect, just basically to stall us out, even though it's not really stalling anything. Brave Bird hits a fair amount, but Bat stays standing. And I think what we decide to then do is use Milk to heal Bat, which is obviously helpful. So Roost is annoying, but Power Trip manages to knock out Braviary anyway. So obviously you just look out for things like that. You know, you'll have fairly decent Pokemon at this point, so you don't really have to worry a significant amount about some of these strategies. If you find them annoying, that's obviously not great. But there, and we missed another Supersonic. And we're not so high on the offense power now that Dog's been knocked out. This last one is Dramper. So I think we decided not to go for Brave Bird just in case it knocks its HP out too much. So we kept power tripping on Dramper. And we thought, oh, Bird's HP is just a little bit too low for my liking. So we healed it up, potentially putting Bat at quite a bit of risk. Berserk activates. So make sure you have decent magic defense at that point. Or if you can OHKO Dramper, that helps as well. We survived Flamethrower by the skin of our teeth. Hattie comes out. We're a bit anxious at this point. I think we decide to attack with one Pokemon and heal with the other. Yeah, that's exactly what we decided to do, except this time we use the full restore because the Moo Moo Milk's only going to heal it to about half HP. So we use full restore that we got from somewhere. Dramper goes down. So it's relatively easy at this point. You just got to sort of heal, hope for it to use Brave Bird, or just attack it with mediocre attacks. And hopefully you'll be able to knock it out. I think our strategy was that we were just sort of healing and attacking at the same time as per usual. We got it with a regular effective power trip and knocks it out successfully. And that is the Dark Corvenite dealt with. Grand Wizard is like, oh, well done, you did really well. And tells you to go and storm Umber Castle. He also gives you a Master Ball, so that's 2 now that you should have. should you ever want to use them. There aren't any legendaries before the post-game, so I would save them. Or if you find a shiny, for example, that's a good time to use them as well. So I'd definitely save them for now. This is interesting as well, because we've got 7 keys, we can now access more. You could have done this at the start of the video, by the way, but we can now make Pokemon shiny. It costs a lot of money. I made 1.8 million for now. It's cheaper if you fight more root trainers, and you can also teach egg moves. So that's what we decided to do with Dog. We taught it Thunder Fang because we don't have an electric type move, and we thought we could do with a bit of coverage, which would be very helpful. So this is the part where we go into Umber Castle. The chap there is a Pyromancer, and he's basically Flash in this game. So what we'll do is we'll navigate the castle. We've also sprayed a repel, so we'll have a few less encounters than normal. We'll still have a few. This chap's got Ocophagus, relatively easy if you've got a dark type to deal with it. And you go this way. There's multiple routes to go through Umber Castle. Max Revive, helpful. There's multiple routes. This is just one of the routes. I don't even know if it's the quickest. It's just one that I'd picked out. There's many ways. It's quite easy to get lost in, but if you know at least one of the routes across, you can find your way. That train's got 2 Houndooms, as you saw, and we're using the repels. So the idea is just to get to the sort of back of the castle. These beds are misleading. You can't heal in them, unfortunately. They're literally just decorative. But you go to the middle room with the bed, and that way you go upstairs. I think that's the only sort of end of the castle part. But I might be wrong on that. You go into this room, and this is where the advisor gives a great speech. So be prepared for this advisor. As you see, it takes quite a numerous amount of attempts for me to defeat her. But I will, of course, show you how. And she does give you time to sort of save and prepare before deeming it your last chance. And that is what we will do. So this is just basically a montage of us getting knocked out by Salamence. Because this thing was just... If you're not prepared, as I keep saying, if you're not prepared, it's just going to Dragon Dance and Oko. So we decided... We got quite lucky, as you'll see. So our first one's Ursaring. I sent out Bird because it tanks most of its moves quite well. And we decided Home Claws probably wasn't the best idea, so we just went for a straight Brave Bird. It's got Guts, so watch out when it gets burnt. Again, you can use the same sort of strategy as you did with the Crobat from the last video, which is... Gliscor. So basically, try and status it with something other than a burn, or something other than what Guts would help with. But we managed to get through Outspeed and defeat it with Bat. Which was obviously fairly useful for many ways. Her next one is Lapras. Our team does deal well with Lapras, also because you'd think Lillipad, but it carries Freeze Dry, which which Lillipad is 4 times weak to. So we decided to instead stay with Bat and maybe try and confuse it, which didn't work out too well. It Freeze Dry does quite low down. And we managed to confuse it in the second turn, but it wasn't having any of it. It Thunderbolts and knocks us out. So we've fainted. We then think, why not? Let's just go for Lillipad. We outspeed it, and maybe Freeze Dry won't Oko it. And for some reason, it hits through confusion, but it goes for Thunderbolt instead. Perhaps it was trying to paralyze us, but we managed to get it down to quite low HP. I think at this point, Advisor withdraws Lapras and goes for Salamence. At this point, I was incredibly panicky, because it's got a free turn to Dragon Dance, and then it's just going to sweep the team. If it one Dragon Dance, then that's me done. So I misclicked and sent out Hattie instead of Dragon. As you can see, because then I immediately then send out Dragon. It actually benefits us a bit because it doesn't use Dragon Dance on either of the turns or Dragon Claw. We outspeed, Outrage, and Oko it. That was pretty much my only way that I could have defeated the Salamence, because otherwise it's just too strong and too fast, especially at that level, several levels above. Phalanx comes out next. We wanted to switch it out, but instead it just so happened that Outrage knocks it out anyway, and it doesn't really do anything to us. In other attempts, I used Hattie to knock out Phalanx quite successfully, or it might be Phalanx. Lapras comes back, and we send out Lillipad again, because we know that we're going to hopefully knock it out, but instead the Advisor heals it. We go for Giga Drain again. We've been very lucky so far. It's not used Freeze Dry yet. If it was to use Freeze Dry, it would either OHKO or almost OHKO Lilypad, not to mention it freezes as well. So make sure you have a decent strategy for Lapras. Obviously, fighting type moves are good as well. Or electric types. Bisharp, Bisharp. I call it Bisharp. I'm sorry, guys. I know it's the wrong pronunciation. We send that dog, fairly decent steel type. Again, fighting helps here as well because it's 4 times weak to fight, but it also carries a Choppleberry. But we don't need that. We just go for the fire type flamethrower. It keeps healing because it's still got some potions left, but it doesn't really matter. We can just keep hammering away at it with flamethrower, and it can do barely any damage back, and plus we outspeed it as well. So that's Bisharp down, and that is the entire team dealt with of the advisor. So we managed to do that. She will refuse to give you the key. Now, the key is actually... we're not going to get the key at this video, even though the video is called Advisor Key. It's mainly the battle we deal with. The key's at the very start of the next video. And she will sort of give a speech and sort of do some magic mind powers out of the room. And the Dark Corvenite from earlier is going to greet you and basically indicate to meet you outside of the castle. That's part 8 done. The next part is part 9A. Thank you for watching.